The Green Bay Packers don't have a culture problem. They have an attitude problem, and it's not something the coaches can fix. The players have to set the tone.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you get podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Wherever you get podcasts, you'll find Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how, thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you here on Locked On, the number one sports podcast network. I want to talk about the 7-year itch and what nonsense it is when it comes to coaches and Super Bowls. I want to talk about Edgerrin Cooper because we have not talked enough about the impact his injury had on Saturday night and what that means moving forward. But let's start here with the attitude. There is a direct relationship between the attitude a team plays with and the way they finish football games. It's not surprising that the Chicago Bears, a team that won consistently on offense in the trenches, threw haymakers, and fought all year, beat the Packers in this way. The Packers do not play with that same sort of intensity. And we saw it in spurts this year, where they're rallying to the football, everyone's playing hard, they're tackling, all that stuff. For whatever reason, in about the middle of the year, that stuff started to fade. It started to wane. And there are too many players, not just on defense, but on offense too. There's no nasty in the trenches for the Green Bay Packers. And I see a lot of people want to hang that on the doorstep of Matt LaFleur. It's not Matt LaFleur. Just listen to what Javon Bullard is saying.
We got to continue to be aggressive, man. You got your foot on somebody's neck, man. It's two sides of people in this world. You got one guy that's just going to keep your foot on their neck and keep talking shit. You got the other guy that's going to put them out while you're down there. So we got to be that team that's going to put people out when they're down there. So, and we didn't do that this year. We didn't do it the last game. We didn't do it in the previous game before that. So that's something that we got to find within ourselves to be better next year.
Bullard is one of those guys. He is a dog. He plays with that intensity, that nasty, every rep. You need 22 guys like that. You need 53 guys like that. And when I say it's not the coach, think about the Legion of Boom. That team played with sublime swagger, intensity, toughness, physicality, 60 minutes. Pete Carroll is not out there MFing guys and you know, being like this crazy dude with his players. He's just not. And so, like, he's kind of a goofy guy. Yeah, he likes to have fun, likes to compete. Certainly a motivational guy in general, but is not the kind of guy that you're like, oh yeah, well, I bet his teams just kick everyone's ass. You know why the Legion of Boom kicked everyone's ass? Because Bobby Wagner was incredible. Because Richard Sherman played like he might never play again every single snap. Because Earl Thomas played at 140 miles an hour every single snap. Because Michael Bennett played every down like he had something to prove. And there is a little bit of, and Packers fans get accused of being entitled. And let's be honest, there is some fan entitlement in Cheesehead Nation. I mean, let's keep it a buck here, okay? There is. Packer fans are spoiled. That's just what it is. But this is the first time that I have felt the players are spoiled too. I think the Packers do a very good job of impressing upon their players this idea of what it means to be a Green Bay Packer and the history that comes with that and the prestige that comes with that. But this team, over the last several years, in part because they're young, has felt like at times they could just show up and beat you. That is entitlement. That is arrogance. That is not confidence. And there are players on this team. I'm not going to single anybody out at the moment. We'll see if I need to do that at some point. But there are players on this team. Let's just go back. Rasheed Walker says, I think we're going to go undefeated. Well, guess who didn't play the rest of the season like he thought the Packers were going to go undefeated? Rasheed Walker. Now, I guess I said I wasn't going to single anybody out, but there's at least one person. But that's because he opened his mouth and said some things. There were some business decisions being made against the Baltimore Ravens. And there were some business decisions, I'm sure some of you have seen the clips, made by Keyshawn Nixon at the goal line when he has a chance to punch the ball out. Christian Watson had the ball punched out as he's scoring a touchdown because the Bears play through the whistle every play. And they put their helmet right on the football. Will Blackman, former Packers player, pointed this out. Perfect opportunity to peanut punch the ball and make a game-changing play at the goal line. He didn't do it. Carries himself like a cornerback one, but had to get that boneheaded 15-yard penalty for jumping on the pile. But when it came time to tackle, when it came time to play his responsibility, was not always someone you could rely upon. That's fake tough guy. That's fake tough guy. Oh, I achieved all the stuff I wanted to accomplish at the end of the season. Well, they didn't win the Super Bowl. Didn't you set out to accomplish that? That's not a coaching problem. That's a player problem. And you're only going to change that in player acquisition. Josh Jacobs is the kind of guy who plays that way. Javon Bullard is the kind of guy that plays that way. Xavier McKinney. I think Romeo Doubs plays that way. Christian Watson plays that way. Tucker Kraft absolutely plays that way. Micah Parsons plays that way. Well, you didn't have Tucker Kraft out there at the end. You didn't have Micah Parsons. Those guys set the tone. And I think, we've talked in the past about what do you need to win a Super Bowl, the pieces that you need, the game-breaking players on offense, on defense, on special teams. But sometimes you just need, for lack of a better phrase, you need an MFer, right? You need those guys that are gonna ride the line a little bit. Watch the Houston Texans play. That defense, it's like they're playing with 13 guys. They fly around every play. Packers don't do that. Not that they can't. They're a really fast defense. We were talking about this. Jalen Hurts said it's the best defense that they faced. They played the Broncos. They played the Vikings. They played some really good, fast, confusing defenses. There were times when we saw them do it, but it was inconsistent. And there is a youngness about this team that leads to that. The youth, I think, is partially driving it. You think that what you need is to talk the talk when what you need is to walk the walk. And you think if you say it enough times, it will be true when what you need to do is commit to living it every single day. This is a player problem such that one exists. And look, if the Packers are healthy, if they have Zach Tom, Tucker Kraft, and Micah Parsons, they're playing this weekend, and they might not have been playing last weekend if those guys had been healthy all year. People say, oh, that's a reflection of Matt LaFleur. I don't think that's true. I really don't, because Matt LaFleur demands of these guys. He does hold them accountable. He does insist on the details being adhered to. The problem is this is the youngest team in the league. And so if you're going to take one guy off the field because he messed up, you're going to put another guy on the field who's also probably going to mess up at some point, because that's what young players do. I'm not saying that they can't be the youngest team and go win the Super Bowl, because I thought they could have been the youngest team in the league this year and gone and won the Super Bowl had they just stayed healthy. But that youth has to be the right kind of youth. And I think this last draft was a step in that direction. Anthony Belton has some nasty to him. Savion Williams as a runner has some nasty to him. Matthew Golden as a receiver absolutely has some dog in him. He believes he should get the ball every play, and he believes when the ball's in the air, it's his, even though he's not the biggest guy. And we can talk, and we will talk about Matthew Golden and his usage at some point. I kind of want to wait until we have some clarity on the Matt LaFleur situation. We're still waiting on that. I expect it to come. The news may have come out by the time you listen to this. But this is a problem that, to me, only the players can fix. And that's really a Brian Gutekunst thing. You have to bring in the right players. They have guys on this team that can set the tone. Everyone else needs to follow. Now, I want to talk about this question of the 7-year itch, I've been calling it, and why I think it's nonsense. With Matt LaFleur or with anybody. We'll talk about it next. New year, new systems, and this is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how our business runs and thinks there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. That's why today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Quo, spelled Quo, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working clearer, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number, so nothing gets missed. It works right from your phone or computer, and you can even keep your existing number. It's no surprise Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solar operators to growing teams. Make this the year where no opportunity, no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnfl. That's quo.com/lockedonnfl. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Hey guys, the draft pick positions are set, and so many teams are looking for their franchise QB. Ever wish to become a pro QB getting drafted first overall by the Packers? Well, now you can. And there's a mobile game just for you called Ultimate QB Football Legend. In this game, you step into the cleats of the #1 draft pick quarterback, and it's your job to lead your team to greatness, to help turn a failing franchise into a dynasty. This is the #1 QB career mode on the mobile store, and it introduces the most realistic environment with full career control. Sign contracts, train and upgrade yourself, build chemistry, and evolve your teammates. Give input to your GM on roster moves, play the actual games in 2D, and rise through the ranks to become a pro football legend. You'll deal with the ups and downs of a QB career, from rookie nerves to playoff drama, and every choice shapes your journey. Ultimate QB is totally free to play, has no ads, and works 100% offline. Perfect for when you want to sneak in a quick game or two on the go. Just head over to ultimate-qb.com. That's ultimate-qb.com, or search the Ultimate QB in your app store. We've got something special for you guys. Use the promo code LOCKEDON in all caps in the game's app store to get a free boost at the start of your career. Ultimate QB Football Legend, QB1. It's your legacy. There is this, and I hesitate to even call it a stat, but there is this idea out there that if you're with a team a certain amount of times and you don't make the Super Bowl, you won't. And when you look at history, if a coach doesn't go to the Super Bowl in their first 7 years, they don't. Now, this to me is nonsense. It is complete and total nonsense. And here's why. 32 teams in the NFL, right? In the modern NFL, Bill Belichick is hogging the Super Bowl trophies. Andy Reid is hogging the Super Bowl trophies. There just aren't that many coaches in league history that have Super Bowls. Like you go back and you go, okay, Vince Lombardi's got multiple, like there are a bunch of coaches that have multiple trophies. It's just rare for any team to win a Super Bowl. more coaches has of course gone to Super Bowls than won them. The other part of this is coaches who don't win Super Bowls don't tend to stay with one team very long. In fact, coaches in general don't tend to stay with one team very long. John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, those guys are the outliers. And by the way, they won Super Bowls and then haven't won playoff games in years. In the case of Mike Tomlin, Mike Tomlin's last playoff win, like we're talking about the Obama administration. So just because you have success early doesn't mean you're going to have success forever. So this works the other way too, because guess what? Going to the Super Bowl is really hard. The reality is, if you have a good coach and you give that coach runway, at some point, they're probably going to get lucky and break through, and you're going to go on a run. Whether you get to the Super Bowl and win it is a different question. Dan Marino, one of the best quarterbacks of all time, the pieces never fell right for him. Was he a bad quarterback because of that? No. And there are coaches who, like Marty Schottenheimer, famously fired after going 14-2 because it was just playoff failure after playoff failure after playoff failure after playoff failure. But that was when they were the favorites. Look at the Matt LaFleur era, right? In the Jordan Love part of the Matt LaFleur era, road dogs in every game they played until Saturday. Now, Saturday was a different thing, of course. They were favorites. They should have won that game. That obviously counts here. But how can you count, for example, Andy Reid? Andy Reid had tremendous success in Philadelphia. They went to a Super Bowl. They never won a Super Bowl. Then he goes to Kansas City and wins multiple Super Bowls. Does that invalidate everything that happened in Philadelphia? Does that mean if Andy Reid had stayed in Philadelphia, it's impossible to imagine a scenario where he would have won? No, it's not. And what I think is different here is the core. Matt LaFleur goes out and has one of the greatest 3-year runs to start a career in coaching history in the NFL. They aren't quite able to get it done. They were clearly not the better team in 2019. And I think you can quibble with 2020. They were better in 2021 than the 49ers. But they turned over the whole team. The whole team. Like the Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Jair Alexander Packers, they're gone. It's a different team. The reason coaches tend not to last is because when you come up short over and over, the message, players start to tune out. And I'm talking about the core players. Well, the core players on this team are 26. They're 27. They've only known Matt LaFleur as a head coach. Micah Parsons hasn't, but Matt LaFleur is the best coach that Micah Parsons has ever played for. Matt LaFleur is the best coach Xavier McKinney or Josh Jacobs has ever played for. They've played in other organizations, but Matt LaFleur by far the best coach that they've played for. So the reason I bring this up is not to say he deserves to stay because of this, but because I just don't think this applies here. Like you almost have to reset the timer for Jordan Love. If you want to say 7 years from 2023, then let's have a conversation. But I just don't see any signal here. I don't see any reason to believe that this, because there's a survivorship bias problem here. The coaches that stay are the coaches that win Super Bowls, sometimes that don't deserve to stay. Nick Sirianni, what would you say it is you do here exactly? They had to take hiring of coaches off his plate because he was so bad at it. The front office had to go in and say, this is who you're going to hire because he couldn't be in the same room with the quarterback. So, and you think the culture is great there? The vibes are terrible. But he's won a Super Bowl. He's going to be the Eagles head coach for the next 5 years because he won a Super Bowl. That doesn't make him a good coach. So if what you're trying to find out is, does this quote unquote stat tell you that a coach is never going to win a Super Bowl with an organization? And I'm going to tell you unequivocally, no, it does not. And the simple fact is, it's just very unlikely any coach in any scenario wins a Super Bowl. That's not to absolve Matt LaFleur. That's not to say Matt LaFleur shouldn't be expected to win a Super Bowl at some point. I'm just telling you, if we're going to look at the numbers say the odds any coach in any situation wins the Super Bowl. It's infinitesimal. The odds of a coach making it 7 years, pretty small. Matt LaFleur got his job in 2019. It is the year of our Lord 2026. He is one of the longest tenured head coaches in the NFL. And they've had a lot of regular season success. But you know why he's one of the longest tenured coaches in the NFL? Because a lot of the other coaches stink. Or a lot of the other coaches have not had success. I refuse to believe that because he's been in Green Bay for 6, 7, 8 years, he suddenly can't win a Super Bowl. Like, do people really think Kyle Shanahan can't win a Super Bowl because he's been in San Francisco too long? Do people really think, I mean, maybe you do, but like Sean McDermott and the Bills, Josh Allen can't lead the Bills to a Super Bowl because Sean McDermott has been there too long? Like, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So to me, there is no trend there really. It's not a causality thing. It's just a numbers thing. Any coach doesn't tend to make it 7 years without a Super Bowl ring. And any coach in any situation is very unlikely to win a Super Bowl ring. So that Venn diagram, the overlap, of course it's tiny. I don't think it's relevant at all in this situation. At all. Matt LaFleur is better than some of the coaches who have won Super Bowls in the last 15 years. No way would you rather have Doug Peterson than Matt LaFleur. Zach Taylor went to a Super Bowl. Is he a better coach than Matt LaFleur? No way. No way. Nick Sirianni's been to 2. No way is he a better coach than Matt LaFleur. Not even close. So we're gonna play, 7 years, that's the cutoff. Like, what are you talking about? It's arbitrary. Guess what? No team won a Super Bowl with their quarterback making a boatload of money until they did. Because the quarterback salaries have gotten out of control, number one. And number two, only one team gets to win the Super Bowl. So, and there's only, a handful of quarterbacks in a given year who are going to make a bunch of money. Now they all do. This year, you look around in the playoffs, this year, in all likelihood, a team with a highly paid quarterback is going to win. It's going to be the Rams with Matthew Stafford. It's going to be the Bills with Josh Allen. I mean, I suppose it could be the Texans with CJ Stroud, that defense, unbelievable. But like even the Seahawks are paying Sam Darnold real money. They're not paying him top of the market, but he was a highly paid free agent. Does he make too much money? Is the difference if they paid him $50 million, would they not win the Super Bowl? It's foolish. It's foolish. The Eagles just won a Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts making $50 million a year annually. I understand a lot of that is cap histrionics and there's a lot of stuff in there, but like this is one of the dumbest conversations that I can think of that a lot of people talk about. I hear about it constantly and it is complete and total nonsense. All right. Edgerrin Cooper. Was he the deciding factor against the Bears? Maybe. We'll talk about it next. As the new year gets going, a lot of people are trying to simplify their routines, and dinner is a big one. Between busy work days, cold winter nights, and packed schedules, having an easy, reliable dinner plan makes a huge difference. That's where Home Chef comes in. Home Chef takes the stress out of cooking by delivering fresh, pre-portioned ingredients right to your door with easy-to-follow recipes that actually taste great. They're rated number 1 by users of meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease, and it's not hard to understand why. Meals come ready to fit your schedule. 30-minute recipes, oven-ready trays, or quick lunches. Recipes are simple but feel elevated, even restaurant qualities, with dishes co-created by chefs like Gordon Ramsay. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering my listeners 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Just go to homechef.com/lockedon. That's homechef.com/lockedon for 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Must be an active subscriber to receive the free desserts. If you've ever hired someone who looks good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important the fit part is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring? Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. Instead of struggling to get your post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posts directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of the show get $75 sponsored job credit to give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Do it the right way with Indeed. Did it feel like the loss of Edgerrin Cooper made a big deal on Saturday night? Well, our pal Dusty Evely helped quantify just how big a deal it was. Before Edgerrin Cooper got hurt, the Bears would run 43 plays. They were averaging 4.8 yards per play. They had a 30.2 success rate. That's average to below average on yards per game or yards per play. Well below average success rate. After the Cooper injury, that's 34 plays. They averaged 7 yards per play, which is would be number one in the NFL if you average that for the season, and a 47% success rate. Edgerrin Cooper was a huge factor on Saturday. And this is not what ifs. This is not excuses. Okay? This is an example of why you need your best players in that moment. And Matt LaFleur said it. He said it, I believe it was at the Friday press conference last week. He said, the game is ultimately going to come down to your best players playing their best. And Jordan Love did that. Edgerrin Cooper did that. Matthew Golden did that. Lucas Van Ness did that. You lose someone like Edgerrin Cooper, and you have to replace him with someone like Isaiah McDuffie, who is a capable backup, but is just not the athlete that Edgerrin Cooper is. Think about if Edgerrin Cooper is chasing down Caleb Williams on 4th and 8 instead of Isaiah McDuffie. Think if Edgerrin Cooper is chasing down DeAndre Swift as he breaks back across the field to try and score. Think if Edgerrin Cooper is in coverage in the red zone on the throw to Zacchaeus for the touchdown. It just changes so many plays. And he is becoming, even though he did not have the flashiest season, he did not take the steps forward we thought he was capable of making. And I think part of that was done in service of Micah Parsons, because a lot of what he was able to do last year was as a blitzer, as a lurk defender, as a queen on the chessboard piece where you can line him up in the A gap and then he can haul ass to the middle of the field and cover 2. Those things they didn't ask him to do in the same way. And there were games when he just missed tackles. He just wasn't quite as locked in this year as he was last year. And I don't have a good explanation for why that is, but this game against the Bears, he was playing with his hair on fire. He was flying around. And he is one of those guys that plays with that intensity, that plays with that verve, the juice that you need every play. You're not going to see him, letting up on the sideline. You're not going to see him all of a sudden slow to a jog as he's chasing Caleb Williams out of bounds like certain other players on this defense. He is a tone setter, but not just because of the way that he plays, because of how good he is and how good he can be. We think of progression as linear with young players, and it is rarely that. It is rarely, they were so good as a rookie, so they're going to get 20% better in their second year, and then 20% better after that, and then no. Because their roles change a little bit, or the players in front of them change a little bit, or the scheme changes a little bit, or their body changes a little bit. They're less healthy than they were before, or, any number of other things can change. The pressure is different. The expectations are different. Don't let what happened over the balance of the season with Edgerrin Cooper, the not meeting expectations. Don't let Edgerrin Cooper become the 2024 Packers. They have this great first year, and then they have a good second year, and they don't quite meet expectations. And so you're going, well, disappointing. They must not be who we thought they were. No, don't do that. Don't do that. And I think in some ways you're looking at this year going, well, exactly. The Packers were who we thought they were. They just were a disappointing team. No. This team with Micah Parsons and Zach Tom, even just like taking out Tucker Kraft, with Micah Parsons and Zach Tom is a Super Bowl team. With Micah Parsons, Zach Tom, and Tucker Kraft, they're a Super Bowl team. In terms of quality, no doubt. Doesn't mean they're going to win every game, but by quality, that's what they are. Edgerrin Cooper is talented enough to be one of those guys. And I don't want it to fall by the wayside, the impact that he had in this playoff game, because on balance, he had a quote unquote disappointing sophomore season. This is still a young player figuring out how to play linebacker in the NFL. He didn't really play linebacker in college. He was a pass rusher in college. He spot drop is like being generous to what he was asked to do in pass coverage. He was not really asked to cover anybody in college. He's still learning the position. And you see it when his instincts kick in, he is unbelievable. And you hope that 2 years in, now you have a cornerstone piece. Can he play Mike? Do you want him to do that? Maybe you don't. Because I don't think Quay Walker is coming back to Green Bay. So how does that change? Can he take on a bigger role in this defense? Can he call the plays? What is he ready for? What is he capable of? These are still questions that I think are worth asking, despite the fact that we didn't see him have the meteoric rise that was predicted for him. Don't lose sight of that, please. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. Much more here on Locked On Packers as we make it through the off season. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe and follow wherever you get podcasts so you get all the latest episodes. Follow me on the social medias, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, all that stuff. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Packers ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonpackers.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 national NFL YouTube channel. On audio, make sure your second listen is Locked On NFL or Locked On Squad Show. Will be live tonight, 7 p.m. Lambeau time on the Squad Show on the YouTube page, the Locked On Packers YouTube page, so you can stay Locked On Packers.